level. This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 150 of The Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening and hope you're doing all right. Now, if Bournemouth wasn't the game to make people fall off the dry January wagon due to stress, I think last night might be one of those that might push people a little bit over the edge as they want to forget it as quickly as possible. So it seems to be the joys of being an Arsenal fan at the moment. And Anyway, despite it being a 0-0 slog fest, bore draw, disappointment, or whatever you want to call it, there's still a lot, I think, to unpick from that game. And joining me today to do so is Jamie. How are you? And you still doing okay with dry January? Last night didn't knock you over the edge?
Might have been a problem. Not by much, but yeah, might have been a slight problem. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I hear you. So there we go. But anyway, before we get on with discussing that 0-0 draw, as I said, if you can leave us a nice little rating and subscribe on the podcast apps on our YouTube channel at The Grove AFC, where you can watch and listen. Yeah, it really does help. Definitely over Christmas and New Year, the listener and subscriber numbers have grown quite a lot. So yeah, please keep helping spread the word. It's very much appreciated. And there we go. Anyway, enough of that. Even though I think maybe we'd rather talk about anything else, but that's not what we're here for. Arsenal 0, Liverpool 0. And now, look, before we actually get on with the usual format, I was sort of thinking about this in a different way. I wanted to get your view because there's 2 or 3 discourses out there at the moment. Jamie, where do you stand on last night being a poor performance and a really poor second half versus accepting that we're still in a really strong position with 6 points in the lead at the top of the Premiership? I mean, since Villa, we've played 6, won 5, drew 1. That's 16 points from 18 possible points. 5 games ago, we were 1 point behind City before we went to play Everton. We're now 6 points clear. It was shitty weather. It's been a tricky Christmas period for everyone. We've had injuries to contend with. Is it all that bad? Can you separate the two?
Well, I had this conversation last night with Wale, who's in this chair at times, and well, not physically. He doesn't actually turn up at my house and just sit in my seat, but rather is a featured member of the Grove podcast. He came out. I came out ranting, and he came out looking at the positives, which is an interesting one.
Wait, hang on.
I know this is the man who is, Wale is a red-blooded American that believes that winning is all that matters. And it was, and I had that reaction and went, "What the bloody hell, mate?"
Roles reversed.
But it was that pragmatism. He'd immediately reached a pragmatic state, I think, and more than likely had reached it sometime during the second half.
Yes.
On the plus side, Liverpool might not score, and if they don't, then we're still 6 points ahead. We're still at the top of the table. It's still a really good lead at this point in time. The way that I almost viewed it is that last night is one of those games where you want a cathartic bloody rant about it, and then just go, but at least we're still top by 6. Yeah. And I think the main thing actually that I come out of it with is I think there should be a little bit of a reckoning off the back of this for a particular player, and there's a little bit of reflection there for Arteta about a few things, and a reflection for several players about a few things. And some of those things aren't just evident last night; they have been evident for longer. And as a result, I think it could well be a bit of a watershed moment. It certainly was not the statement win that I predicted.
I think we all did.
Confident after 25 minutes that we were going to see that. I thought we were following the same pattern as that City game last year, where we did not let them into our half for 25 minutes. It looked phenomenal to me for a bit, and then obviously we just dropped off like we did. The performance in that second half is to be ranted about. It is to have some catharsis, and it is to be pissed off around. And I certainly resent all the hours that I spent on the ticket exchange trying to get a ticket for this, and then spending £100 on it. It makes you sometime around the 70th minute, when I'm also soaked through, I'm going, fucking, what did I do with my life?
Yeah.
But the pragmatist in me just goes, nothing's really changed a great deal. We're still title favourites. And the positive, a big part of that positive though is also not to do with us, isn't it? It's the fact that City just look quite anemic, and I don't think their one signing they've made today so far is going to change that.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. It's look, you look at actually over the Christmas New Year period, all teams have been dropping points and stuff like that. If you're looking at the table, and I'm just about to sort of switch to it now in my notes. It's I did have it. Oh yeah, there we go. Like, oh no, that was League Two or League One. Sorry, in preparation for Portsmouth. But where is it? I'll go and get it now. There. Premier League, City have drawn their last 3 matches. Villa have lost 1 and drawn their last 3. Liverpool have drawn their last 3 matches. Brentford are the form team, and Newcastle. Man United have drawn their last 3 matches. Chelsea have drawn, lost, drawn, lost. So, actually, from our last 5 games, 4 wins and a draw. Where's the crisis? Where's the problem? I think. It's a tough one to pass, and also with the City thing, we drew at home to the champions, and we played badly. City drew at home to Brighton, who haven't won a game for ages. They didn't win a game in December. I think they won one game in January. That's a worse result, but no one's going, oh, City's title chances are blown. That's it. They got no chance and all the rest of it. And I think is always going to be there. This is always going to be, I don't know if it's the sword of Damocles, if that's the right analogy to use, whatever, but until we win something big, the questions will always be asked. People will always doubt our credentials. We will even doubt ourselves. And that's always going to be be there. And again, even with 10 points clear, there's still potentially going to be doubt. And even if it's 10 points clear with 3 games to go, we're going to still fuck it up somehow. But it is an odd one to pass. And I think much of the disappointment comes around the opportunity that was potentially presented to us, that and it was an unexpected one. And you think, right, go out and take that opportunity, go out and show who you are, go and do that thing. And there was a lot of expectation in before the game. It was a very expectant crowd, and I'll ask you about this later. We had the stadium display and all the rest of it, so it was built up to be something really, 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 really big, and I think that plays into that. Plus how we played, it just feels like again, and again, it's the tension of the season. We can feel it within our grasp, and we'll touch on the crowd reactions because that's been a bit of a chat in the growth today as well about the fans. So I say there's a load of things there, and I think you can be really disappointed, and a lot of things great. But I think the one good thing is that we're learning from positions of strength. So we're not losing and having to learn. We're sort of drawing or winning badly and learning from that, and we do tend to learn from these situations and progress. I think the worst one was the Villa one, and look what's happened since then. But so yeah, I think there's a lot of frustration there, but an opportunity potentially missed. But also, 6 points clear. You can't knock it.
No, not in the slightest. I think, and it's that bit though, isn't it? I think we've built up in our head about the 8 points, and it is when if you get the 8 points at this point at this stage in the season, and I'm even just thinking mathematically, you get another 3 points the next week, and it is literally 0.5 points per game week that City have to catch up, which is that for me is like a very specific, almost kind of really difficult to breach data point for them. So it is what it is. You've built that up in your mind. You thought that's the thing. This could be the statement win. Get this one over the line, and you feel, I think, at that stage like you're running away with it almost. And for whatever reason, those 2 points just make all the difference. And when it's combined with a poor performance, I think if this had even been a Wenger style, we've been Brad Friedeled by their keeper. And, Van Dijk's made 1,000,001 fantastic blocks. If it had been the first half hour played out over 90 with occasional spells of relief because you can't maintain that for 90. But if we'd have seen that same half hour in the second half for the last half hour, I actually think you come out of that going, oh, bloody hell, well, look, for once the champions played a little bit champion-like. They've got it in them to do it. They have got a bit of world class there, and you deal with it and you move on.
Yeah.
I think the bit that's made it a lot harder and made it such a, and has kind of required that need for catharsis and ranting, has been the fact that it just, unfortunately, for an hour, we looked pretty shocking.
It was an anemic second half, yeah. In terms of the, say, bigging up the occasion, what did you not make of the stadium display and how it happened? It looked all very nice and very pretty. We did it for Real Madrid and whatever. But just the fact that we did it for a Premier League game. And granted, like, Liverpool are champions, but when Man City came and we beat them 5-1, they were champions then. And I know, and I understand we want to get the crowd up for it, the 12th man. I don't know, I just felt like we were bigging up the occasion a bit too much. And we planned this before we had the opportunity to go 8 points. This was not like, oh, we've got a chance to go 8 points quickly, let's get some plastic bags onto the seats. I just felt this is just another game, another 3 points. Okay, it is Liverpool. But do you think we maybe made too much of a deal of last night, and maybe that built into the psyche of the players, and maybe the whole thing occasion got to them? I had mixed feelings about it. And someone actually said a really good thing. So I put it on the post. This was not for the crowd in the stadium. This is for people watching around the world, and maybe to engender some support. And it's for the Americans watching, and that. So maybe it gives a sense of who Arsenal are. But just a game against Liverpool, halfway through the season.
I was thinking about it when we were doing it, to be honest, and I kind of thought, I'm not entirely sure who this is for. I held up my bag for a little bit of time, but it's not a very me thing, if I'm honest. I liked it against Real, I think, because there was something about that occasion and getting behind the team in that particular occasion that sort of, and something about us reclaiming that we should be there and whatever.
Yeah.
Premier League, pardon. In fixture you play every single year. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I also don't think there's anything massively negative about it either. I don't particularly think the players. I think the players would have built this up themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this was an island game, that's a big deal. They've seen the City result play before.
Sorry for listeners who are not American football fans. That basically means a game played on its own with no other games around it.
I watch so much NFL coverage at this point. I've started to bring in the vernacular without necessarily.
No, good job. I know what you're talking about, but many people won't. An island game.
Came out of an island, as in.
Well, when I literally started hearing that, I thought, which island have they been playing NFL games on? Hawaii? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So with a game being played on, it's in isolation.
In isolation. It's a Thursday night. It's all that kind of stuff. Do you know what it reminded me of, actually, in a way, with the atmosphere and the way that it built up and all that kind of stuff, was for some reason I had those classic the classic Liverpool Newcastle night games pop into my head from the mid-90s that.
Stan Collymore, Kevin Keegan hunched over the hoardings
back each year.
Yeah, 4-3,
and that was at a time when you didn't see that many night games in the Premier League. They weren't actually much of a thing, but for whatever reason, they occurred on those nights. And I had that in my head a little bit, but it feels somewhat forced almost, because you play loads of night games now. You play loads of big teams at night, midweek. So it was a bit weird, but I don't think it's detrimental. I think, and it was more the fact that I just sort of thought, I don't need this. I'm really up for this. I don't need this.
Yeah.
And as you say, then it becomes a thing that you're doing for the cameras and all that kind of stuff. Whatever.
I'm not against it. I was just a bit mixed, and I just felt we were bigging up Liverpool, bigging up the occasion, and it just felt like, did we really need to do that? But as I said, I don't think it was for us. It wasn't. I mean, it's nice to look at, but anyway, it's a moot point. But I just found it as sort of an interesting thing, because I think people were, and other people on the socials were a bit mixed about it as well. But
I think it's part of our very good social team, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And events team and stuff like that. And in fairness, those people have had a big impact on improving positivity around the club, in improving engagement, in having people feel more of a collective Arsenal in a day of the corporate football club. That actually is something to be celebrated for them. That's their job to do, and they do it really well. Where other teams either don't have to because they have a more engaged fan base generally, or don't have some of the issues we've had with engagement over the years. either way,
Yeah.
I think that's for them to have done, and it's a nice job for that. It just doesn't really impact my fan
Yeah.
experience that much.
No, exactly. It's not for you. So, but next time we'll make sure we don't put a bag on your seat. Okay, so
I mean, I've still
I-
brought it home.
oh yeah, of
I've
course,
added
of
it.
course.
I've added it to the Real Madrid collection. Unlike Real Madrid, I could have picked up about 17 of the bloody
Yeah,
things on
yeah, I think
on
so.
my way out. I
Yeah.
thought, should I grab one of the red ones as well? And I just went,
Oh,
no, I
you.
don't really want the one that's in my pocket.
Oh, okay. Oh, because I need a white one. You've got a red one. There you go. We'll swap
I've got
next
a
time.
white. If you'd like it, by all means, you can have it. It's not a classic, is it?
Okay, right. Look, let's moving on. So, in terms of the game itself, let's stick to some of the format. What was your highlight and what was your low light, and why is it Gyökeres?
I think
No, what
my
was your
highlight.
yeah.
I mean, it's such a poor game that it's a struggle. I mean, I think probably I would go for when the first half hour was going really, really well. There was a moment where Leo Trossard loses it to Connor Bradley, trying to take him on. Connor Bradley gets about 4 steps up, and he's done that. It's that kind of dispossession of Trossard, where Trossard's hit the deck, and Trossard just gets up and wins it back immediately. And then Bradley is completely flummoxed, pissed off, and fouls Trossard. That's one of those moments where I went, yes, we're on it. Like this is the way we were against City when we did them. This is the way we were like when we're really, really, really on it. And against Real and all those games that we think of as being the classic Arteta sort of intensity wins against big clubs have all been like that. They've had those moments where there's been a stage where we just go, no, absolutely not. We're going to absolutely strangle you. We're going to strangle you, and we're going to probe, and we're going to probe, and we're going to probe, and we're going to keep going and going. And even if that looks a little bit, a little bit horseshoeish, there's enough probing going on that at some point you're going to collapse to this. And that was my highlight of the game. And unfortunately, that happened about 20 minutes through. And at no point after that really did anything get anywhere close to.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I'll do my highlight and then we'll get onto the lowlights because I think they'll be similar. But my highlight, I was really struggling with this, really struggling, and all I can think of was Szoboszlai missing those free kicks by a mile. That was it because everyone was thinking.
Was the second one that bad? Because I thought the second one.
Actually, second one was good.
Looked all right. Yeah.
Miss, as they say, miss as good as a mile, as they say, but the first one was terrible. But I think we're all thinking. Lightning's going to strike twice. The games are panning out exactly the same. Both games, it's incredible how similar both games, the home and away ones. They should have both ended in 0-0 draws, and the only way the game was going to be settled was either going to be a mistake or a moment of brilliance. And yeah, so I think there was. So I think just the relief that it wasn't nestling in the top corner like at Anfield. I think that was really the only highlight I could really clutch on. Yeah, you could say there were some nearly moments and this, that, and the other, but they never really ended in anything. I guess Saka having Gyökeres on toast for 20 minutes was a bit of a highlight. But again, we didn't make the most of those opportunities. But so it's hard to say. Yeah, I'm just thinking of something because it's the format rather than actually anything particularly standing out. Normally, even there's something funny. Right? There wasn't even anything funny from the game to pick on and stuff like that. And it was raining and wet, so even before the game, going to the pub soaked and all. So it was just one of those evenings that was just generally. A bit miserable. That would have only been relieved by a win. So let's get on to our lowlights. Go on. I'll let you kick off.
Selection and substitutions.
Okay.
Is how I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
But I think leaving plenty of room for you to maybe pick the obvious that is a part of this as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I will say actually, I really missed Mikel Merino in this game in the second half specifically. Yeah. There were lots of duels to be won, and no Mikel Merino to win them.
Yeah,
is the way I would describe that. I personally felt a couple of things really. Like the first thing is the selection wise, Gyökeres just. I've been saying it for weeks. Can't start. Was absolutely abysmal. Did nothing that you need him to do against Liverpool. Was easily his worst performance in an Arsenal shirt, and it's a shame because it's happened after he was somewhat influential last week. But I mean, absolutely abysmal. And then not taking him off early enough. I'd have hooked him. How you can't hook him at half time, I have no idea. Unless you just feel like you're going to destroy the guy. But at this point, I don't think there's
He's
enough to
getting
destroy
beyond
him.
that.
And I think you need to build the boy back up. I think you need to say, you're not going to play for 3 months. We're going to put you with one of these specialist bloody positional coaches that Arteta loves so much. And you are going to have to relearn how to play centre forward, because you can't play centre forward in this team. This is not good enough.
And who would you have brought on instead? Marino?
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, Jesus straight away for him.
Yeah.
I thought Jesus, as soon as he came on, made an impact. I mean, it's not ideal. He's got to work his way back in. We're on the back foot. Other players around him have shrunk up during that period of time, which I think, I'm not landing this all on Gyökeres. Victor Gyökeres is not the reason.
No. He was part of the problem, but he's a bit of a lightning rod.
He was a fairly large part of it, because if you don't have we needed a focal point for large parts of that. Somebody to bounce the ball out to, hold on to it, get a turn, and then get somebody else into play. Jesus can do that. Gyökeres can't. So you needed a Jesus there for me. And simple as that.
Well, I'll let you carry on in a minute, but also, how have Liverpool been beaten this year? By turning their defenders out. Turning Konate, turning Van Dijk. We didn't do that. So if you got Gyökeres, just launch it over the top. Fuck the pretty stuff.
And again, Martinelli looked, again, he had an impact. Was it a huge impact? No, but it was. We just had those little bits. I mean, to be honest, I'd have also said the triple sub probably should happen at some point as well. I don't know whether he was really mindful, because the Hincapié injury meant that we'd used one of the breaks.
Well, also he wasn't ready when you're making a change with Hincapié. So we either make a change at half time, or because Hincapié's injury was sudden, the other subs weren't ready to come on. So he couldn't bring them on. But even not just down the flanks. So I think the flanks fine, but just over the top, just turn them. If you got Gyökeres, right, just turn them and let him run at them. Turn them and let him run. But we didn't do that. So if you're going to play in front of them, then Marino or Jesus is the player to have. And this was a neither nor situation. So
I mean, for me, that's the main selection. The second would have been, honestly, I do think I think the Marino things. I was liking the idea of him prior to the game, and I called that out in the chat, but also I think, post game, very much wish that we'd had him in there, to be honest. It's one of those where, and maybe again, he comes on as a sub. You look at the game start and you go, we could really do with somebody who can start winning some of these. We're getting brushed about, we're getting out muscled a bit. Liverpool seemed to kind of, I mean, they very much grew into the game. And there was a point in time where they just felt like, okay, actually, you're not going to come at us. You've stopped pressing us. You've started backing off. And at that particular moment in time, it felt like we needed something a bit more combative on the field. And I'd be more tempted by Marino than I was by Eze, necessarily. Although, again, I did like the idea of bringing on Eze when we did.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you'd want Marino up top and to play that false nine role. Yeah. But you can't. In a way, it's one of those ones that you've got Jesus and you can't. What does it say if you bring on Marino ahead of Jesus, sort of thing? So it's a tough one. You shouldn't worry about those things, but you also do have to worry about those things. So it's a tough one to call. So, I mean, look, in terms of the selection, and we're not going to talk too much about that, because to be honest, the team was the strongest one we could put out there. And Gyökeres was always going to start. Now,
disagree on the Gyökeres, right? It's just
no. But
now that we've got Jesus and we've seen him being in reasonable form for several weeks, it no longer is the strongest starting 11. Simple as that.
Yeah, I guess, but I think I knew Arteta was going to go with Gyökeres. I think that's what. So we felt that was that. So in terms of selection, I don't think there were surprises, and that it just turned out he pulled a stinker. Like he had 8 touches in 64 minutes, and that's the fewest touches he's had in a competitive match for Arsenal.
He had 45.
And the stat going around as well is that he hasn't had a shot, not even a shot on target or anything. He hasn't a non-penalty shot in 7 games. This is your centre forward. Now look, we all know all the stuff about he wasn't brought in to be the main man. We're missing Havertz. He's been thrown in, all that. However, so this is my low light, and there's 2 performances I'm gonna call out, and his primarily, he's 28 years old. Even if you're not shooting, there was the Rice cross that went in, and he's asleep. He's on his heels again in the first half. Just if you're a limited player, what's the one thing you can do? And that's put effort in, and that's be annoying, and just be annoying, be irritant, just get in the way, do just do something. It seems very passive, very afraid. He's a big guy, just annoy players, do something. If you can't be technically skillful on the ball, you can't get the ball, just be a nuisance, be disruptive, put something off, just make them think about you. If you just go hiding and you're standoffish, then it's easy. I mean, Van Dijk and Konate were like, we've had the easiest game last night. They had nothing to do yesterday, nothing to do. That we
absolutely unreal.
We didn't turn them. He didn't put them under pressure. They are not. This is not prime Van Dijk. This is not. I don't know if Konate has ever been prime, but just be a nuisance. There are lots of limited forwards out there who just do something, at least do something for the team. And I just feel like, I think he's a bit lost. I feel like if I'm going to be playing this team, I have to be a technical player who does X, Y, and Z, and doing just basically route one basic football. I know I shouldn't be doing that because it's not our style of play. Well, what he's doing is not it. And look, I've been trying to see the positive side. I've said recently, even after last week, he's part of a winning team. He's part of the reason why we're top. He can't be all bad. Blah 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 blah. And we're damning him with faint praise as he's pulling away 4 defenders who make a mistake, and so we get the second goal against Bournemouth. And I think we're sort of, as they say, we're squinting to see something. We're desperately trying to find something. So we've always tried to be positive, whilst if we really scratch beneath the surface, how much do we actually believe in what we're saying? So it's a double. But last night, look, it's a tough one because you say it's the last straw. We're not exactly got a lot of options. Havertz is going to be a few weeks off before he's going to be considered a starter who can play 60, 70, 80 minutes. So we have to have him. But yeah, you're right. That's it. He doesn't.
Jesus, Martinelli.
Martinelli will never start through the middle because
he won't. And in fairness, actually, I don't rate Martinelli through the middle. But
Marino,
Trossard, and Marino have all done much better work in that position. Even Trossard, who had games where he looked like he isn't a striker playing at striker, and he still did more because the biggest. And again, I keep evaluating this. For me, he lacks the core attributes to play in this team, regardless of. So even if he does the stuff that he's meant to do well, I think he is too disruptive to what we do otherwise.
Yeah.
Because I've never been a fan of saying that we need to play more to his strengths. I don't think that's the case. I think very, very minor alterations on almost like a player-by-player interaction basis. Yeah, absolutely fine. But the guy, unfortunately, if you're going to play for us and you're playing a game like last night, and it's only going to get worse the more that players play against him, the teams play against him, and people see what you need to do to him, then all you do is you stand off him, you get involved just as the ball comes into him. His touch is abysmal. His strength is seemingly non-existent. He slides off players and challenges with absolutely zero intensity there. And that's all you need to do. The only time that he's looked remotely threatening is when he can get on the shoulder. But he doesn't even do that very well because he's not very quick in a Premier League.
Well, there's no separation, so he's not having shots because even if he's got the ball at his feet, there's zero separation, and so he can't have that space to have a shot. So he's The interesting thing is, and we'll get on to Portsmouth. Oh, look, we're playing a team that's at the bottom of the Championship. This is right up his Strasse. So do we start him to build something? So I don't know, but I think. Yesterday was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, if we were playing a Premier League team next, then he would definitely. Well, I would suggest he wouldn't be starting. It's an odd one, that we got Portsmouth, and I got a feeling that he will start that one. But so let's see. And look, the other low light. And look, I'm going to caveat this with the fact that he's a 19-year-old kid. And we're always still saying he's a midfielder playing left back, but MLS yesterday is worrying. What he came on and did, and we were we were worse for him coming on. He had to come on because Hincapié, by all accounts, has done a hamstring. I don't know how bad, but that's a couple of weeks, I'd imagine. He just looks lacking in confidence. Frimpong had the beating of him. He seemed off the pace. His passing was poor. His confidence levels are low. He's just not, compared to what he gave us last year. It's the drop off is huge, and it's worrying that maybe now, with Hincapié being out, Calafiori being out, couple of cup games, maybe you get some minutes to build up some of that confidence to get back into things. But this is a real, I think, challenging time for the young lad, for him, for Arteta to manage him. But there were a few times, and thank God Frimpong is a bag of shite. Otherwise, we could have been in real danger a couple of times there. Or thank God Gabriel got healed to something. Yeah, so that was a bit of a low light. I think more to the point, I'm feeling bad for him, and we all want him to do well, as opposed to the Victor Gyökeres is in. No, we expect you to be better. This is like, we know he's got it in there. He's just on a bit of a dip, and I think we've been seeing this all season. He's just not been at the same level.
He's not taking his opportunities, but his opportunities have been a bit crap, in fairness. He hasn't had the best times to actually win at games. That one yesterday in particular, when we think of that run that he had last year at left back, I think a key part of that is also he wasn't really in such an exposed position. We weren't playing well as a team. And pardon. At the point in time where he came on, we had him up against Boateng, who'd had a bit of a nice run of things for a little bit. And that pace, he doesn't actually have to defend that often, or hasn't had to defend that often. And I always think he isn't the best, actually, when you do get somebody a bit more pacey.
If you turn him
on him.
Yeah, if you turn him and run at him, yeah.
He had a lovely little moment where he had the trademark kind of wriggle away from two players, and beautiful little cut inside the fullback and centre half to put Martinelli through, when I think that was the one where Martinelli ended up being offside.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a shame, but that was
but also then Martinelli,
cute MLS moment of the stuff that he does,
Yeah.
But I do think, and I've said start of the season, it does feel with Hincapié coming in and Calafiori looking good at left back that maybe he does revert now to playing more of a midfield role. If he does do that, I can't help but think that's going to be via a loan somewhere for somebody that plays him in midfield for the season before we really get him back in. But yeah, I mean it's a challenge. But as you say, he's 19, he's a kid. There are going to be challenges. There's going to be difficult times, and it can be the making of him, or it can be the breaking of him, and you see how that turns out. But I'm not as harsh on it as a low light. I think he came into a game that was really difficult to come into at that particular point in time, and I'm a little bit more sympathetic, perhaps, to him in that respect.
No, fair enough. Okay, so let's address, in inverted commas, the Martinelli incident. My initial reaction was a lot of fuss about nothing, okay? But having sort of looked back and reflected on it a bit, it didn't look good for Martinelli. Not the best thing to do. However, it happens all the time. Even in this game, Wirtz and Gabriel, Frimpong. Frimpong made twisted ankle. And you can understand in the heat of the moment, in the 94th minute, when we just want to get on with the game, he sees a player go down, lying mostly off the pitch, and then he manages, despite his injury, and I'm not saying he isn't injured, but I think he is injured, it could be a bad one, he crawls back onto the pitch. Now, we've seen this loads of times. So the reaction from the player standing, he said, well, you're just time wasting, you're just trying to cheat. And so he does what players have done all the time. So it's not like Martinelli's the only player ever to do this. He tries to drag him off because, well, hang on, you've just called on to waste time and we can't get on with the game. And he just wants to get on with the game. So and much of the reaction is after the fact, in hindsight, knowing that Bradley was injured. No one knew he was injured at the time. No one in that moment. So before I get onto the sort of slot and what he said, what were your thoughts when you saw it, and now the reaction and to that? So not great, but I can understand how it happened.
I mean, when I saw it, I did think it's not. I don't ever like when players do it. I just think it's just silly. But I understand why. I can completely get it. And if you're expecting somebody to be impetuous within our team, Gabriel Martinelli is about number one in the list in terms of who's
really
going to be impetuous, right?
Okay.
by a mile. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it'd be Trossard or something.
I
and
think
Trossard was borderline yesterday.
I mean, yeah, Trossard as well. Basically, almost anyone from the left wing is probably where you're looking for a bit of it. And
I
similarly,
thought
as
it'd
well,
be more
left back,
right wing, to be
actually.
honest. But there we
Left
go.
back and left wing are absolutely impetuous as anything. Like, all of them. There's some absolute nutcases at the back, and there's some, are they actually teenagers up the top? So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think it's a bit out of order. You don't do it, especially because I did actually think Bradley did look injured before he even moved him. And as such, I think that's a really silly thing for him to have done. But to use words like disgusting, etc., is just, again, it's a sign of the times and the hyperbole that people feel is required at all given times in order to engage people. It was interesting actually to see Nev on his podcast that he does after the game. I obviously wasn't watching it on TV, but I heard that Nev kind of called it out and said something on the lines of that's unacceptable, disgraceful, or something like that. And he actually wheeled that back a little bit on his podcast, as he quite often does. He often does that with Martin.
Well, yeah, because he's got about, I don't know how many listeners compared to Sky, because on Sky, he basically was encouraging a Liverpool player to go and hit Martinelli and take the red card. Now, is that
as bad as it got? Is it?
Yeah. And he's a fucking idiot. I mean, he's supposed to be a professional analyst, co-coms, and he recommends violence and suggests Liverpool go down to 10 men as a course of action.
I would say personally, he's also a former professional footballer that you're employing that capacity.
But you don't.
And part of what you get with that is the emotional side as well. And the emotional response from G-Nev there is essentially the same as you get from a TA or a Merson or whatever, where you
but that's fine. You don't do it. You don't do it on
sort him out, and that's how the Old Trafford brawl happens.
Yeah, but
kind of things,
that's what you say in your podcast in your own environment. You don't say that on Sky TV.
But it's heat at the moment, and I don't actually mind the heat at the moment comments so much, to be honest, at all. I think in the heat of the moment, I say some silly things. But you're not
professional co-coms.
I almost offered somebody outside over a text message last night. These things happen, and I didn't mind that so much, and I quite liked the fact that he wound it back, as I say, and said you were far more eloquent, and you were quite right in saying it's not the done thing, and it's basically a silly, impetuous thing to have done. The fact that then the next day, I don't even know what's happened on TalkSport today, but I guarantee
there's Cundy and
has talked about disgusting, disgrace, all the words that you might possibly imagine. Personally, I kind of ignore it because I'm not a massive social media user, so I'm all right. But you get a lot of it secondhand coming down to you, don't you?
Yeah, so you got Jason Cundy and the guy. Yeah, I mean, and then and also like, again, it's so rich. The pearl clutching. It's not like Gary Neville didn't kick 7 shades of shit out of Raya at Man United at one time, or Roy Keane. I mean, can you imagine Roy Keane pearl clutching? The amount of pictures today I've seen him standing over Haaland and his ruined leg. And Roy Keane with his buzz cut and all the rest of it. So it's like, right, guys, come on, wind your neck in. It's you've been there and done it, and actually done a lot worse. So, and a lot of the time their stuff is premeditated, like that dual attack on Neville's on Raya, that one game Man United and Roy Keane. Those are premeditated, which is much worse than the minute. But this is not to excuse Martinelli. You're right, it doesn't look great, even if it is rubbish of a player to crawl back on the pitch. It is ultimately frustration. And look, Slot actually was the one that came out with a lot of credit out of this, because he did say, I don't know Martinelli, but he comes across as a nice guy. The problem from him and in general is there's so much time wasting and players pretending they're injured that you can be annoyed if you want to score a goal and think the player is time wasting, which is genuine. I mean, he went on to say Liverpool don't ever do that, blah blah blah, which is nonsense. But that initial piece.
I mean, have a word with Frimpong in the first half.
Exactly. So he could have stoked the fire a bit, but he did really well to diffuse it. And look, everyone's calling out for Martinelli to apologise, and he did. Like they released a Conor message, and I've already apologised to him. Really didn't understand he was seriously injured in the heat of the moment. I want to say I'm deeply sorry for reacting. Sending Collar all my best again for quick recovery. So heat of the moment stuff. It's a football incident, but you're right. And the words that are used, it's interesting. Then in the social media stuff, so. Gary Neville uses the word disgusting. The amount of times now I've seen disgusting. So it's just people are using that word because they've heard it, not because I'm sure some people are on their own. But so now So now it's just another stick to beat Arsenal with. Nelly is going to have that now until he dies it's going to be even on his tombstone, leave Connor alone. It's like, it's just going to be one of those things. But let's hope.
It's the age of the podcast vernacular, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it's the end of the age of the thumbnail and all that kind of stuff. And it is what it is. You just, to me at least anyway, about as much air as it needs is probably the amount that we've given it, to be frank. I think you just move on and go. That's what it is.
Well, we can
these things.
We can move on, but
nobody will remember it.
I'd imagine when we play at Anfield next time,
they'll boo him. That's fine, but that's the thing you do anyway. We do that to anybody who's given us a slight. But outside of that, of that sphere of Arsenal and Liverpool, nobody's going to give a shit.
Let's wait and see. I'm a bit more sceptical on that one. So look, in terms of the game itself, I mean, look, okay, evened out 48, 52 possession, 0.57 XG to 0.31, 9 shots to 8. We had 4 shots on target. They had 0 shots on target, which apparently Arsenal are the first team since March 2010 to stop Liverpool from having a shot on target in the Premier League match.
I don't feel good about it, though.
No, and we're the boring ones, and that's a 600 match run. So that's
and they hit the bar as well.
Yeah, but that's not on target. That is not on target, and that's not on target. And also that was due to us. So look, I mean, look, this was destined, I think, for 0-0. The way it looked, the way it just all panned out. I think I accepted 0-0 at 60, 70 minutes. I said we're not scoring here. We're just creating nothing. We're doing nothing. We're not getting on the end of things, I don't know. It was an odd one, and I think basically then it got to the point where, look, if you can't win it, make sure you don't lose it, and that's sort of what we did. It's also sort of what Liverpool did. They didn't have a huge amount of intent either. No, I'll let you rant about the second half in a minute, but I mean, for me, we did dominate the first half. I think we were the better team. And we were getting balls into the box. They weren't falling our way. Liverpool defending, Gyökeres on his heel. But basically, Liverpool, and this maybe it's a bit like how with Newcastle, Slot. Arteta hasn't won against Slot's Liverpool, four attempts now. But then again, Liverpool have only beaten us once out of the 4 as well, so it's a bit even. But they came with a perfect game plan, and I think actually, Ekitike being out was actually worse for us, because then basically they ended up nullifying us. They played Wirtz as a false 9. They had 5 midfield. They lacked any real threat. But what they did was that they had overloaded midfield. They cut out our passing lanes. They had the extra man, and they let Saliba and Gabriel have the ball as much as they wanted. But as soon as we gave the ball to Odegaard, to Saka, to Trossard, bang, they're in quick. Bang, they're in quick. Bang, and they sort of even doubled up on the wings.
Boateng at right wing was great because he will do...
Frimpong. Why do you keep saying Boateng? Frimpong.
Not Boateng.
Yeah.
Apologies. Frimpong on the right wing was absolutely superb for them defensively. He did a Martinelli shift, and it's because he's a right back. It's about simple as that. He's an atrocious defensive right back, but if you give if you instead make him go up against the likes of Hincapié, he'll pocket him. That's not an issue, So he did really well, kind of coming back and covering those spaces. And similarly, actually, I thought Gakpo, was pretty decent from a defensive point of view.
It was Gakpo and Gyökeres on Saka and Frimpong and Bradley on Trossard, and so, but we still exploited that space. And what you had was maybe actually Hincapié now being on the outside, and on the right hand side you have Timber filling in that space where the gap was. But then his delivery into the box was poor. So again, it was moments, but not there. But so they had the perfect game plan. However, they weren't creating anything. They weren't doing anything. So I think they were playing on the case of like, well, let's keep it tight, let's keep it close, and let's see if again get a free kick, get something on the break, which they almost did. But I reckon if they had Ekitike fit or had a centre forward fit, they would have had a different game plan. I reckon, and maybe that would have opened up more space for us. But instead, we just couldn't get through that 5-man midfield and look. And then the second half, I know normally we're a good second half team, and especially the first 15 minutes, but we got worse, and we sat back, and I don't know. Go on, let's have your second half thoughts.
I mean, The first thing is, it did look like we tried to make a change.
Yeah.
And it looked like we were kind of splitting the centre halves and having Rice, Subi, and Odegaard all kind of flood almost the centre half position, presumably with the intent that because in the first half they were letting Saliba and Gabriel have the ball plenty and just allowing them to try and progress the ball, whilst then, kind of doubling up on all of our midfielders and cutting down the amount of space. They defended the space really well in the first half. That's what they did brilliantly.
Yeah.
Second half, it looked like we were trying to do that, but the problem is nobody was driving through then.
Yeah.
At all. And what you need to do then is almost come slightly narrower with your wingers as well, and allow your those midfielders to be able to move into wider channels, and you try and stretch and change the way that Liverpool are defending those spaces, and try and change the allocations of kind of player to player effectively. And at that point, you can try and get some mismatches, and you can try and get some guys out of position, and you can make them uncomfortable. But if that is what we're trying to do, because it's what manifested at least for kind of a good 10, 15 minutes at the start of the half when we were in possession, it didn't come off, and we just ended up not having possession for long periods of time. And then the fact we had no outball, because we do not have an outball with Victor Gyökeres on the pitch, and we didn't have Martinelli, who's a bit more of a over the top outball, certainly, than Trossard is. Trossard would give it a decent go, but he's not.
Yeah. You don't play the ball over the top for him. Yeah.
It meant that we couldn't try and bypass the midfield, which is ultimately what we probably need to do. That's the thing that I think I come back out of the game and go, I try not to second guess what Arteta's doing a great deal, but it did feel like he was trying to do something different, so that rather than bypassing so that we could bypass the midfield by having those ball playing players kind of back there. But they had no outlets. They had no one to go to.
Well, that's the thing. That's what we said. I said at the beginning. You turn Liverpool, you turn Van Dijk, you turn Konate, you turn their fullbacks. We just didn't do that.
And again, you need to go narrow at that point. You need to have, the idea is you're sucking players in. You go over the top of them, and you've got a bit more of a narrow three that are able to kind of compete and get past that defence. And it just didn't seem to work whatsoever. So there's maybe a little bit of a question there of, was Plan B just abysmal and a bit on the day, and we hadn't really thought about it or what? But yeah, it was pretty shocking, and I just thought, everything just intensified. The amount of football they had, and in fairness, they have turned up with a really good midfield. They've turned up with three extremely good midfielders, and they have turned up with defenders that like to have the ball.
Yeah.
They have turned up with, Wirtz there in the false nine. If you stand off them, they'll keep the ball really well.
Well, this is the thing.
If you try isolated presses, they'll resist it. You know, that you need to do what we did in the first half, where you're pressing them extremely high and stopping them even getting that first ball out.
Yeah.
And you're really, really on them. And I can understand we were a little exposed a couple of times in the first half with that. There were a couple of times where the ball got knocked over the top, and in particular where Frimpong got away. And you sort of, you worry a little bit about those moments, but there is a little bit of a who dares wins about it, right? And I didn't think we were negative overall at all. I think that's a silly trope that's not correct.
No, I don't think we were negative. We just couldn't get any control in the game. And you were saying, Liverpool, they completed 207 passes in that second half, which is like the most by a team. But it was all in front of us, and they had all 11 of their players behind the ball. So fine, have the ball. You can pass it left, right, forward, whatever. It was sterile, and we've been there as Arsenal fans, seen it before. Sterile domination. It's just right. You're keeping the ball, but then again, if you put 11 men behind the ball, it's very easy to keep. And if we've got our 11 men, it's like, what did work well from Liverpool was because they had that midfield, their movement and rotation. We were quite structured, whereas they were a bit of pass and move. So actually, no one was really staying in one particular place. So it was very hard for track. And maybe just, I don't know, energy levels were down. I don't know what. It just was very un-Arsenal. And when they allowed Saliba and Gabriel are decent with the ball at their feet, but they're still not Rice, Zubimendi and Odegaard. They let them move forward. Suddenly, Gabriel and Saliba sort of virtually on the edge of the box, and if you're Rice and you're Zubimendi, you think, I need to step back now, because and so they basically, the wrong people have got the ball in the attacking area. And there was one really moment that I saw that we were attacking, and then Rice. It was either attacking or something, but Rice went to go for the press, but then he looked behind him. He said, "There's no one there, so right, I'm going to drop back because if I go to press this and I can't get it, then we're screwed." And I think there was a lot of that going on. So again, Liverpool very clever, allowed in their minds the right people, in our minds the wrong people, to have the ball in dangerous places. And amount of times you would see a place where Gabriel or Saliba was, you can cross it or you can play a nice little pass. They didn't do it. They'd like, right, we need to recycle here, and I need to get back in position. And then by that time, 11 men behind the ball, it's easy to defend. So, yeah, it was just we played the game that Liverpool wanted us to play, and look, we did have. Again, there was a couple of moments here, a couple of moments there. The last 10 minutes, I think Liverpool was settling for a draw. But no, normally I go through the various highlights of the first half, second half. But in the first half, the only highlight was when Conor Bradley hit the crossbar, and that was due to a mistake by us. And in the second half, I thought the substitutions in terms of Nelly and Madueke, I think they were bright sparks. Could have potentially come on earlier. But what summed up the game...
Coming on earlier would have been a thing. Especially, I thought Saka really struggled. I just thought he was poor in the second half. I think he looked, for whatever reason, he looked completely off it mentally.
Yeah.
Particularly after he had that little bit of a knock.
Yeah, there was a kick in the first half.
And just put away out of every challenge and not really. Yeah. He just wasn't being himself at all.
No, and Madueke looked bright, but there was a bit there was a few moments that summed up that game. First was Nelly. It was a really weird one. He had the ball and he ran all the way back with it to the halfway line with two people chasing him. We think, oh God, he's going to give it. And then somehow he turns them, ends up running the other direction. He's lost two players and then passes the ball out of play. And it's like, that's summed up. And then in the last second, last kick of the ball or head of the ball or whatever it is, Gabriel at the far post after a great corner by Madueke, and Jesus is in his way and Big G can't get the header because the goal was there. If he connects like we know he connects, that's 1-0 and we go, who gives a shit? we're dancing in the streets. But again, it's sort of like dribbled off his
ball though, from Madueke. I thought that was real positive. If you're looking for a genuine sort of highlight,
Madueke.
And the only thing is, the difficulty with bringing a Madueke on at that point in time in the game is that to get the best out of him, you need to go through a couple of rotations and try and get him to the point where he's 1-on-1. And we did that twice, and we did it really effectively as well.
Yeah.
But those things take against a disciplined, good team like Liverpool on a night like that, take about a minute to a minute and a half to achieve, because you have to go through those. And a lot of people were getting really frustrated around me saying, pass it to Madueke. And I was like, well, don't, no, because at the moment he's touch tight to a defender. You can't give him the ball touch tight to a defender. That is absolute suicide for Madueke. What you need is to work him into a position where he has a yard on the defender, facing him up, eye to eye. And that's the stage where Madueke then can spring in. And he did that twice. And he does that brilliantly. He's fantastic in that position. But you need to go through those rotations to try and pull a couple of players around. And then as soon as you see that he has got that yard of space, give it to him and then he'll drive. And that's the difficulty. Unlike, he's a little different to Saka in that respect, where Saka has that ability to roll a player. So he can be touch tight, and Saka can operate in a touch tight environment and then make a move off being touch tight. Madueke doesn't have that. Madueke has struggled when he's been touch tight and given the ball, because you can't expect him to do the same thing. And they are different players in that respect. I think Madueke, when he does have a yard on the defender, is potentially even more dynamic than Saka. But he needs that position, and Saka on the other end can take it in both of those circumstances. So he looked really good, but you're only going to get a limited number of opportunities for him to do that, because each time you do, you're eating away at the clock, basically. You're using 90 seconds of football to get Madueke into a position where he gets a run on somebody. And when he did, he was brilliant. He was dangerous. There were a couple of balls that people should have been on the end of. And I actually thought he delivered 3 great deliveries. Where if you've got,
there was that one. I think Jesus was on the edge of the box. Like, oh, for God's sake, why? Type stuff. It's really frustrating.
You've spent those 90 seconds lining him up for that opportunity. So during that time, it's not just that. You've also got time that the lads should be understanding. We're going through the rotations over here. These are like set moves, effectively. We should be looking, as soon as Mads gets on his bike to go past the player, we need to reflect that run, moving in and taking up positions 1, 2, 3.
One on the across the 6-yard line, all the rest of it. Why is he sitting on the edge of the box? There's someone else's job, and again,
But we know
that's
we're not good at that. We know we don't
No.
have anyone in the team that's good at that. We know the best player in the team at doing that is a defensive midfielder. So that is not that's not massively surprising, but it is something that we need to improve at, particularly in that state.
But that's Arsenal. We've got all the brilliance in defence and in midfield and out wide. We're just missing. Yeah, I don't know if we're not missing that final piece of the jigsaw. That's it. But we miss. We don't have that killer instinct centre forward. We thought potentially we're getting with Gyökeres. We don't have that there. Now we're a bit more of an egalitarian team. We share out the goals. We'll still score plenty, but it's just not going to be someone with 15, 20, 25, whatever goals a season up front.
It doesn't just need to be them, right? I mean, I think of Raheem Sterling, and I think of Raheem Sterling specifically at a point in time where he's working with Mikel Arteta. Do you remember how many far post tap-ins?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you remember that? He used to pick up, and don't get me wrong, I know Raheem Sterling's a bit of a dirty word for us because his time here, but he why is Martinelli not being coached to be in that position?
Yeah,
Trossard doesn't do a terrible job of that actually. Trossard's one of the better ones for being in those positions, but certainly you want somebody to be doing that. Raheem Sterling, if it gets across the box, I'm the man at the back post that's able to get there, because we have so many of these opportunities where they're not blocked or lumped out or cleared. They literally just swing through to the other side of the fucking pitch.
Yeah,
and that's the bit that I do find quite difficult, and it almost feels like you sent Mads on to do that, and then you've not got everybody else lined up to be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so. Yeah, 0-0. I mean, Liverpool won the league last year and they didn't beat us. There's talk, if you don't beat Liverpool, if you don't beat your nearest rivals, you won't win the league. Okay, of course it helps, but Liverpool drew 2 games against us, so it's not a precursor to not winning or winning the league. So we are 6 points clear. We're equal on goal difference with Man City, so it's plus 26, plus 26. Okay, Villa on plus 9, and we're on 49 points. They're on 43, they're on 43. So look, and we're still 14 points above Liverpool. So again, some perspective, it is frustrating. And before I get onto the 3 words reviews, there was a bit of chat today in the WhatsApp group about the crowd. You sympathetic, and there was an article by Jonathan Liu in the Guardian about the Arsenal groan and all the rest of it. For me, it's just normal. People are reacting to the moment. They're frustrated. You can feel something. It's almost there. We've got 3 or 4 seasons of being nearly men. We can see the opportunity ahead of us, and so when things don't quite right, your immediate reaction is to but it's not through any real complaint about the players. It's just almost. I don't know. Did you have a sense of the atmosphere being a bit just going off a bit yesterday?
It did, yeah, 100%. And it actually escalated into, it went through that cycle of it was great and then it was stale. And I think everybody was just a bit stunned mainly, and then it became angry. And that was that's that typical cycle in a bad Arsenal game, to be honest. But I have total sympathy. I was in there, and I sort of did the same. I definitely got to the point at the end as well. It's the most that I've kind of extolled exasperated thoughts very loudly in that crowd for a long time, because there were individual issues going on such a regular basis. It was very difficult and there was a collective, malaise.
Yeah,
you can't get behind that particularly. I did try and join in on a couple of the, the rousing sort of chants and whatever, but they never, nothing was a response to that. Nothing came up off the back of it, and as a result, people do tend to stop. And I think this is a general. We were chatting about this again in the pub afterwards, and I kind of said, I think, to be honest, there's a bit more of a Premier League problem with atmosphere as far as I'm concerned. I think a lot of Premier League games don't have the atmosphere they're used to, and there's multiple reasons for that. There's socio-economic reasons for that.
Yeah.
There are, there's the demographics that come to the game now, by which I don't just mean, it's a load of middle-class prawn sandwich eating brigade. I actually mean more so, a lot of us are older, in fairness, because what the Premier League is now, I first started going in the 90s as a kid, and there were a lot when I was going. There were lots of young men, and now I'd include young women in that, which is a real positive. But there were lots of young people. There aren't very many young people now. The bloody Black Parade or whatever they call themselves down in the clock ends are literally like a little bastion of youngsters, right? Largely, it's a bunch of folks that have plenty going on in life, jobs going on, all that kind of stuff, and want to go and be somewhat entertained and see a value return. And also, I'm going to say it, generally, the guys that have been going for years and years and years just aren't as enthusiastic about individual games. That is the case. And they don't want to scream and shout and be there the whole time. And they're not necessarily in that moment, and they're not necessarily surrounded by a bunch of mates who are in the same place or going to interact with a bunch of people they've never met before because they're just excited to be there, which you do get with a lot of those younger fans. So that's the thing across the Premier League. That's not just us. And then the other part is also games are not as entertaining as they once were. That is not to say the football is lesser quality or the league's lesser quality. The league has more quality strewn throughout it than has ever been the case in the top flight of English football post-war, as far as I'm concerned. But and it's become a little bit like, the game in the Premier League now does remind me of when I used to watch Football Italia in the 90s, and I used to be fascinated by it, but it never made me feel massively excited. You watched your Football Italia and you went, oh, isn't it phenomenal how they're like chess games? Now this is going on, and you've got these probing movements, and you've got all this kind of tactical shenanigans going on, and you really enjoyed it. But if you'd have given me an option, I'd have gone to Liverpool for Newcastle 3, and
of course,
and Man United versus Arsenal, and all of those games. Or even, Wimbledon versus Southampton most of the time. Had more exciting moments. The number of shots has gone down by an absolute mile. The number of take-ons has gone down. All of those things have changed fundamentally in our game, and a part of that is the homogenisation of the game across the globe. Because similarly, I'd say when the Liga was in the ascendancy, it wasn't as exciting to watch either. And then so we're left with this game where it is less exciting. The demographics have changed. There is, as such, and there's also a lot more bloody football. So individually, games can be less exciting for that reason as well, because you go in every 3 bloody days now, or you're watching something every 3 days. And I think as a result, I don't know that any atmosphere is really that great. And we never had one of the better ones.
No,
at Highbury, I loved it, but it wasn't that good. We weren't. Yeah. We've always had a little bit of we want you to come here and entertain us.
The Highbury Library.
Then we're not necessarily going to get behind you.
Yeah.
So, look, it's a valid criticism. It's absolutely a thing. I just don't think that it's explained entirely by the game. I think any given game in the Premier League now is a bit shitter. Any of our games is a bit shitter. And then if you have an absolutely atrocious game on, like we had last night, of course it's going to be what it is. And I don't think you're going to change that. You can have any amount of incentives to try and get us chanting and cheering and all that kind of stuff, and it is what it is. It's the modern game,
Indeed. Okay, so let's moving on to 3-word reviews and to get an online version of the crowd reaction. So thank you for posting on Blue Sky and Threads and TikTok. And I've got some from the Grove WhatsApp group. And again, as always, apologies if I pronounce your name wrong and all that. And actually, I'll start with yours, Jamie. Will not rewatch, and I don't blame you. And I think we've done quite well based on our memory that's sort of been embedded in our brains, and hopefully soon to be forgotten. So on TikTok, we had Brad the Case. Where was Odegaard? Yeah, I think after his recent good performances, again, he's not going to stand out, but he did go missing a bit yesterday. But I think practically the whole team went missing. JJSJ, Arsenal quite poor indeed. Gianluca, the boy, needed a pillow. Yeah, indeed. And I don't get this one, but Bergkamp 10 FFF. So I can for fuck, and I don't know what the F stands for, but thank you anyway. Okay, from Blue Sky, Ask Cannon Picks, Ian from the pod, 6 points clear, indeed. Again, in a similar tone, Sid Silk, we didn't lose. Mr. C. Laguna, frustrating opportunity missed. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Okay, on to Threads, where we did get a good response. Nicky Guna 06, Soggy laboured draw. Yeah, it was a bit wet. You said you got soaked. Where was your seat? Were you not undercover?
I was block 9 set. Literally, I saw
You-
you when you got into
Oh
your
yeah.
seat.
So you weren't getting soaked watching the game
No, I was
unless there
getting
was a
soaked
hole.
watching the game. I was getting soaked as well.
How?
We had the rain coming through in that corner. I think
Oh,
it's because it's
nightmare.
where there's the join in the two
Oh,
stands, right? So and I'm not joking. Either that or it's the wind direction. But when I
it
first
must have been the wind.
the geezer next to me had his bag on his lap
S-
because it was
Oh, right.
coming. It
Oh,
was coming
wow.
like it wasn't as bad as if you'd have been on the
Yeah,
pitch, but
literally row one.
it was
Oh,
a
okay.
constant spray of like
Yeah.
light rain. Effectively, it was like being in a
Yeah.
drizzle for 90 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I'm like, I was 10 rows in front of you. I was like, yeah, it was nice and dry. I couldn't work out. I was
No.
thinking,
Honestly, it was coming. And some of it will perhaps have been. Some of it does tend to whip in the back as well, doesn't it?
yeah,
Sometimes,
there's a bit. Oh, okay.
I genuinely think when I looked up, it just seemed to be coming straight down like a shower.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, at least it's not as bad as Old Trafford. Okay. Mimi Kelilala. Rain, pain. Very good. MJ Abbott. Let's move on. Indeed. Dr. Lecter's dentist. Nice. Almost fell asleep. Bertie Pepper 4, as you were, indeed. Yan Han 10, poor second half. Yep. Nikita NBD. Slobbers Light equals baby. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Anamac 1886, never again, please. Yep. Floodcombe, Liverpool 1-0. Yep. Yeah, I think they would be a bit happier with that point than us. Deschamps Gill, I didn't get this. 3 harp pints. Yeah, I'm not getting. I know harp used to be a beer from the 80s. Yeah, harp stays sharp to the bottom of the glass, but I'm not too sure about that one. Maybe you just let me know what that means. Danny Mast, embarrassing home performance. I don't think it was that as bad as that, but yep. Nikita NBD, refs are blind. Was there anything Anthony Taylor missed? I think there was maybe a potential penalty incident at our end, but also at their end. So I don't think there was anything particular that Anthony Taylor got wrong yesterday. Benjo, Martinelli first aid. I like that one. Petter for the plus, see no football. The Nelolum can't always win. Yeah. Astrid Felicialim, bad weather sucks. It did. Yeah. Bjorn, oh god, I'm better these names. Bjorn Unai, Soggy, KG Fruitless, Young Curmudgeon, take the point, and Carolina Gunner, sloppy, soggy game. Yeah, I think the weather doesn't help, shall we say? Not going to use it as an excuse,
No,
but
it doesn't.
the
Never
wind and the
does, does
rain
it? No.
doesn't help. And onto the Grove, Moz, Victor, pack bags. Alex Monroe, we move on. Kasiva from the Grove podcast, no to booing. I didn't hear any boos. I just heard a lot of frustration. CERN
Yeah,
support.
I didn't hear any booing. The only objectionable bit that I heard was when somebody kept on trying to get the always the victim chant going, which luckily they didn't, which was nice to see.
Yeah, Owen, failure to capitalise. CERN, support the team. Andy Leach, 6 points clear. Daljit, second half stinker. Shanice, absolute snooze fest. And Alistair, dethroning opportunity missed. So there we go. I think that all of those pretty much sums up how everyone's feeling about that game. So a raft of opinions, and yeah, pretty well summed up. So thank you for sending those in. I appreciate it, and yeah, we'll send out the request after we played Portsmouth on Sunday, 2:00 at Fratton Park in the FA Cup third round. Got a couple of minutes left. Yeah, what are you looking forward to? Not looking forward to as far as this game's concerned?
I'm sort of looking forward to the getting loads of updates from my girlfriend's dad, who's both a Portsmouth season ticket holder and an Arsenal fan when it comes to the Premier League and
the big leagues.
Is also
okay.
A lifelong Arsenal fan. So he effectively operates as a gooner the majority of the time, whilst also being Pompey through and through. So I'm kind of looking forward to him enjoying that. He's written it off for Pompey, and he's just excited they get to play the Arsenal again.
Nice.
And what I'm not looking forward to would be I would not like to see us play York. Is probably the simplest thing. I think that might be what I'm not looking forward to for every game for the rest of the season might be the
Oh,
potential he
okay.
plays. I'm actually not. I'm not really watching it. I'm away.
Oh,
I
okay.
picked this weekend in part because it was a good weekend to just go. I'll watch the highlights.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is. I really want to see Jesus and Havertz get their time up front would be the thing. So if I'm really saying what I'm looking forward to, I'd love to see. I just have a feeling this is the game they've targeted for Havertz to come on for.
Okay.
A game
Okay.
that doesn't, a game that we should be comfortable in.
Yeah.
That shouldn't stretch him too much. The expectation is for me that he's done a couple of reserve games. I don't know whether that's the case or not. But if he could be coming on for a little bit, and we get to a position where we feel like, moments that he gets in games over the rest of January until the point where he can then start starting games in Feb, then that'd be great to see. And as I say, it would be brilliant to see Jesus start the game. And that's just what I think he's going to go for.
Yeah, we'll get onto the lineup in a second. I mean, I'm looking forward to rotation, massive rotation, something a bit different. We've had the intensity of the league over Christmas and New Year's. We just want a game away from the stress of the Premier League, a chance for some players to play themselves into form. Should be a low stress game for a change, as is always the case. FA Cup. There's always the potential for a shock, a banana skin. We've got a completely changed team. I mean, when we did against Palace, I think we played really, really well. But you never know. And remember Liverpool last season away to Plymouth in the fourth round when they were focusing on the Champions League and Premier League. I think they threw it and they played 11 Scousers that they found down the pub. So but there's always that there. But I don't see it happening, and we'll get onto that reason why in a minute. And so in terms of lineup, I'm thinking, it's full rotation. Unfortunately, Hincapié went off injured, so hamstring, so that will potentially impact it. But I'm thinking, Kepa, White at right back. It's now our back four that's a bit interesting. Hopefully, I would like to see Salmon and Norgard back there and MLS. But he will play one of Saliba or Gabriel because that's what he does. But you want to at least, you don't want them both. You want to see at least Salmon or Norgard playing back there. Most probably Salmon, but it's likely that he will play one of those other two. Then depending what happens, you've got Norgard, Marino, Wineri, Eza in the midfield, three of those four, and then you've got Madueke. I think he'll play Gyökeres, and then you've got Eza or Nelly on the left. But you're going to see starts from Madueke, hopefully Wineri, Eza, Marino, Norgard, White, MLS, Kepa. Then the others is just depending on fitness and how much. But what are you thinking in terms of, okay, no, you want to see Jesus and get Havertz off the bench. What are you thinking he's going to do at the back?
I don't disagree. I don't think he'll change both centre halves. I think he'll go with one of them. I don't think it'll be Marley Salmon. I just think that. I think there's something about. I think that age is a barrier at centre half, and the amount of experience he has.
I keep forgetting he's 16. I keep thinking he's 18. He's 16.
No,
so
he's very very young, and he is still reasonably slight. He's quick, but and he's got a decent height, but he's quite slight. He needs
you could put him. You could put him wide right. You could put him right back and play White in the middle potentially.
He's played right back and he can play right back. That's absolutely fine. So that's definitely an option as well. But I think with Marley Salmon the path is much longer than it is for other players because of where he plays and because of unlike Skelly and Wanyeri, he needs to work on his physicality. He is quite a small lad. So that's probably the bit that I'd expect.
We also got the guy.
I say that as somebody super excited by Marley Salmon, hence I'm kind of following him via George Bird and guys like that.
The other left field one, we got the guy who's actually come back from Scarborough, Maldini Kukuri. So there's potential. Look, he's had minutes.
He's played League Cup before. He's played Bolton. He played against the other lot we had in the League Cup.
So and he's now available. So he's not on loan anymore. He's come back, and there's talk that we want to sell him before his contract runs out. So that's potentially an opportunity to get him in the shop window. He's big and burly. He's played. He's of an age. Potentially that could be an option as well. But you just know he's going to play one of Saliba and Gabriel just because of the options. It's him, and the rest as we expect. And I don't mind seeing Gyökeres up front for this game, shall we say? And look, in terms of Portsmouth, And this is why.
One of the
Go on.
player, by the way, I'd love to see on the bench for this one is Seb Ferdinand as well.
Never heard of him.
No?
Where does he play? Is
Right
he
wing.
right wing? Okay.
Yeah. He's
Doubt it.
a winger. He's very very talented young lad.
Okay.
Has limited options, but it'd be nice to see him on the bench. He's kind of he's been a bit of a late developer, but he's having a good season. So it'd be nice to see him get an opportunity.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll find out at 12:45 on Sunday. So in terms of Portsmouth, they're 21st in the Championship. Played 24, won 6, drew 7, lost 11, scored 21, let in 35, so minus 14. So look, they shouldn't be the toughest opponents. They're sort of struggling. They're in a relegation battle with Norwich and Oxford. So it seems like Sheffield Wednesday on minus 7 are done and dusted. But and with Blackburn Rovers and Charlton, so they're down in relegation fodder. Their home form: 1-5, lost 5, drawn 3 in the league. I mean, their last 5 games, their last game, they lost 5-0 away to Bristol City. Okay, they've drawn a couple of games with mid-table teams like Derby and QPR, 1-1, and they've beaten actually the teams they're battling against, Blackburn and Charlton, 2-1 recently. So mixed to middling form, but they're not a great team. And then I looked up on FOTMob and they linked to BBC Sport article, Pompey injury crisis has reached epic proportions. So they're even going to go into the FA Cup with injury issues. They I think one of their best players is out for a few weeks. So and they're going to prioritise the league over the FA Cup. You're playing Arsenal, so I can't imagine they're going to be wanting to play their full team, especially if they've got injury crisis. I mean, maybe they have no choice, a bit like we've had in the past, no choice. So, and you might know this guy, Zach Swanson, right back. He's a former Arsenal youth academy player. He seems to be a regular for them, and they're
captain of one of the age groups, Zach Swanson. Good
Okay, and their top scorer is an attacking midfielder, Adrian Segicic. So I think they're struggling up top as well. So, yeah, I mean, we should win this and win this comfortably. I think the last time we played them in the FA Cup was the 5th round in March in the 2019-2020, which we then went on to beat City in the semi and Chelsea in the final with Arteta in charge. So how do you think it's going? What's your prediction?
I think it's one of those, isn't it? It should be a bit of a piss, to be completely frank. Portsmouth aren't a good team. They're not in fantastic form at the moment. It should be a rather straightforward one, regardless of who we put out on the pitch, to be completely frank. A commanding victory is what I'm hoping for.
Goals? How many?
Ooh, let's go for 3-0 down at their gaff, I think.
3-0. Yeah. I've gone.
We need to go and beat. They have got a former Spurs regular's son in the team, Andre Dazelle. So as long as he does nothing, that'd be nice as well. Do you remember Jason Dazelle?
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, winger, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, his son's in there. So
yeah.
They
also. No, go on.
As long as we can make sure that he looks absolutely crap as well. Combination of both. I want a 3-0 win, and I want Andre Dazelle to look absolutely abysmal, so that Jason Dazelle has to witness that against them.
They did have
every success in the rest of his career.
Yeah, of course. They also did have a loanee from Tottenham, Yang, but he's now out on loan at Coventry. He's like, why would I want to be at bottom of the league when I can be top of the league? so he won't be playing. So yeah, I'm going 4-0. It should be comfortable. We should be not making hard work of this. Maybe the conditions are a bit crappy, but we should be too strong for them. I think their primary focus is to stay up. And that's what I read from the article as well. So yeah, it's and this is what happens now in all the leagues. Even the lesser teams prioritize league positioning over cup. But so we'll see. But yeah, should be too strong. 4-0. Yeah, and low stress and there we go. Okay, well look, there we go. 80 minutes in. And hopefully you've enjoyed this more than yesterday's 0-0 draw. And And all that leaves me to say is thank you, Jamie. Hope you have a nice weekend away. It's time to put some brownie points back in the bank.
I'm not going with Brian.
Oh, you're not? Dear.
I'm
Right.
obviously some notes. Yeah.
Okay. Scratch that. then you need to earn those points some other times. Anyway, thank you, Jamie.
All right, guys. See you later.
For your time. And look, follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, X at The Grove AFC. Subscribe, leave a comment on our sort of podcast apps and our YouTube channel at The Grove AFC. And we'll be back. We may do an instant reaction post Portsmouth, or we may just do the pod a bit later in the day, depending on people's availability. But we'll do a post Portsmouth Chelsea in the Carabao Cup. So yeah, now we've got 4 away games in a row. So in 4 different competitions: Portsmouth away in the FA Cup, Chelsea away in the Carabao Cup, Nottingham Forest away in the Premier League, and then Inter away in the Champions League. So a bit of a run of away games for us in 4 different competitions, which is a bit unique. And yeah, all that leaves me to say is thank you for listening. And until the next time, come on you Gunners.